our time best spent together is really helping you guys understand and define the service that you're going to be providing, and just what those numbers are going to look like. What a day in the life of actually operating this kind of business in your state is going to look like. And so over the course of the next week, I personally handle all of the market research and market research reports. So I'll be working on that and getting that, sent to you guys. But really quickly, just one more time, I'd appreciate if you guys could kind of just introduce yourselves. Again, which state you're in, what you currently do, and I guess what you're most excited for, and why this journey out of anything else.
Okay. So I'm a doctor in physical therapy. I'm working right now in my job, in a home health care, and I'm mom for 5 kids. So I'm looking for open this business just to be free and give to my kids more time sitting at home. Yeah, just managing from far. Um, that's it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I am Mohammed. I'm engineer. Really now, that's like my wife will said about that. We need more time for our kids now because really we work from home the last few years.
Sure.
So this kind of business we are looking for the last 4 months. We make a good research for it. She already made this situation many times because she visit many LFs due to her job. She talked with me about that. So after some research, we find it's a good one to start.
Awesome.
And we're looking to not just one house, really. We're looking for more than 10, 12.
We're looking for a big one.
Yeah.
One or two. Yeah.
Sir, for sure. That sounds great. I mean, I love the ambitions, and I'm grateful that you guys chose us to help you actualize that vision. And so, you guys are in Maryland. Is that
No, California.
California? That's what Brandon's talking about. Okay, perfect.
Nearby, yeah. We are nearby from you.
That's even better. Hey, awesome. So I actually personally handle all California applications. So I will be working with you guys. You won't even be handed off to my team. And so, whereabouts in California are you guys located at?
We are in Fontana.
Fontana. Okay, Fontana. So the Inland Regional Center?
Yeah. Center in Ladino County, yeah.
Understood. Okay. Sounds good. And so you guys are looking to open up a licensed residential facility?
Yeah. RCF, yeah.
So okay, so you guys have a home currently.
Really not now.
Not yet, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And so just so I'm a bit caught up, so what you and Brian talked about, was it going in the group home direction, the licensed care facility, or did he mention anything like supported living, day programs? I guess, what about it?
Really, we are talking with Brian with many things. Brian, really, you are choosing a good one to start with anybody. Really, Brian is a good person. Really, talk with us too much, give us many details. Yeah, but he give us a hint about the supported living services.
Okay.
Really, we are excited about it, but we looking for maybe this will be next step, not first step.
Okay.
We need to take the longer first because I know for supported living services, it maybe takes 3-4 months to start.
Mm-hmm.
I know maybe for someone it's good, but we are needed I'm tell you, you're not needed for just one house. We need more than one house.
Yeah.
So we need to take the long term first. After that, I think it's easy because about controlling the licensing, I am also the caregiver for visiting people.
Yes.
For my point, I think maybe we can start after 3 months. After we go for ALF first, after 3 months, he also recommended for us to be first with their name. Because after 3 months or 4 months, maybe I can open a new account with you also for supported living service.
Sure.
Yeah. So we need to start the long term first.
All right, sounds good. So let me first jump on my eating, starting to look up. So what I'm doing right now, I just want to see, where in particular you guys are on the map. So do you have maybe an address that we could use for an example of where you think, or a zip code?
No, really, for our search, we see around us like Moreno Valley, East Vale, Jorba Valley. We see many LFs in this area. But you have many more information than us.
You can recommend us which area is better.
We don't recommend it, or we're not looking for the nearest one. It should be for us. That's the main issue. No, we're looking for the good ones, for the good city. That's better for us.
Sounds
We didn't care about maybe 45 minutes, 1 hour, no problem for us.
okay.
That's a good one, yeah.
No, that's good to know because you guys have an awesome opportunity where if you guys are in, well, you said Fontana, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Fontana. So right here, we have the ability, depending on, which regional center, has the most need for the services that you want to provide, we can either do the, Inland Regional Center, we can do the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center, Orange County Regional Center, East Los Angeles Regional Center. So I mean, it's really like we can spend some time at the very beginning kind of going through and sussing out what is going to be the best direction based on needs and demand for us to go in. And so from the sounds of it, your guys' driving force and factor is freedom. It's the ability to generate some income so that, hopefully you can step away from, the job that's consuming, all of your time. And so what I want to do, starting, looking from the beginning, what can we do and how can we, set this up initially so that we're not building ourselves another job? We're building ourselves an asset that we can, delegate off to other folks to help run for us, so that we can achieve that freedom that we're after.
Yeah.
And so with that said, just so that we're super aligned, right? When talking with Brian, and I guess, the direction that you want to go in, it is serving the state-funded developmentally disabled population, or did you guys mention like private pay, elderly, senior?
Yeah, we're looking for elderly.
Right.
Yeah, but with Medicaid
For Medicaid, I think it's better also for
or
Right.
private, yeah.
Yeah, because we hear about this issue many times about the private pay. Sometimes you face maybe for last bill, maybe it's like worse to talk with them. Sometimes you face many problem with them. So I think the government it's better for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So that sounds great. And so here's what I can do now. That's super helpful, right? Because I guess what I'm showing you and what I'm talking about with regional centers focuses on the developmentally disabled versus the elderly. So if you guys want to do the elderly population, that really opens us up to anywhere. And so what my market research report will focus on is less so where there's a service demand, because honestly, when it comes to the elderly population, there's a demand pretty much everywhere nationwide. I mean, we're millions and millions of beds short, especially here in California.
Yeah.
So that said, my market research report will kind of be centered around, based on where you're located, where are the areas where, we can get into real estate at a reasonable level, but also maximize the amounts of rents that we're getting. Because when we're serving because even though, and we should and we will apply for the assisted living waiver, which is, the Medicaid waiver for for the elderly population. Keep in mind that at the very beginning, we're going to have to accept private pay clients no matter what. Because once we get licensed, let's say that process takes 5-6 months, right? We're eligible to receive our first resident. Okay. At that point, we cannot submit for receiving Medicaid, patients until we're fully licensed. And so we can't submit that application until the initial application is complete. Once the initial application is complete, we can take private paying clients, but we can't take Medicaid clients until that second application is complete.
Second condition approved, yeah.
What I recommend is at the very beginning, once we're initially approved, we'll start accepting private pay clients. I'll show you guys how to do that, how to market and take those folks. Meanwhile, we send off our Medicaid, application. Keep in mind that the assisted living waiver Medicaid application does take longer. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, it's going to take an additional, I've seen 9 to 12 months on top of that. So at the very beginning, I think that we should optimize for intaking private pay clients. And, oftentimes when it comes to the elderly population, that is going to be a better business model anyways. I can show you the assisted living waiver rates which are strong rates. And we can get into that really quickly, but I can also show you what it looks like depending on which submarkets we choose to provide services in, what that looks like from a private pay rate, standpoint as well.
Another question also, Carter, please.
Yes, sir.
For the also, I think for the you, when I see your videos, you are talking about special city, asking about also the number of residents, right? So it's different from city to city about the number of residents and also the ratio between resident and caregiver, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to the elderly population, here in California, we can get up to 6 individuals in a single family residence without having to apply for a single use, major use, conditional use permit, which is going to be, much more time, effort, and finances. And so what I recommend for anybody in starting out is, test and tease the business model, make sure that this is the direction that you want to go in. This is the career path that you want to go toward. And so, start with a 4 to 5 bedroom home. You get up to 6 individuals in that home, because we can go into that without having to go and get a special use permit. Over time, I know somebody down here in Spring Valley who ended up, after they did a residential, facility, they started connecting with business brokers and they bought like a 60-bed facility up in Monterey, and it changed their life. They're making a ton of money. And starting out, if you were thinking about doing serving between 6 to 10 residents and not really above that, I'd recommend just doing 6, because unless you want to go and apply for that major use permit, pay the fees, have the city vote on it, so on and so forth. And so, I guess what was in your minds as your, because I mean, what I recommend and what your vision is, they could not be in alignment. And I'm super happy to, if you guys want to shoot bigger and kind of go for like 12 to 15 beds, then I think that would make sense. But I think that you'll be getting economies of scale and it'd be worth your time to apply for a special use permit if you're servicing more than like 11 folks. So like 12 folks and above, if you want to serve that many folks in a facility, then I'd say let's go ahead and go in that direction. But if you wanted to serve above 6, like 7, 7, 8 residents, I don't think it would make sense to go and apply for the special use permit. Let's just keep it under, under.
Does that mean we are in the same page? Yeah, that's what we are looking for. We need to cut the time. Like I said, maybe it takes 9 to 12 months. So if we start with like 5 residents, less than 6, right? Take or less than 6.
So up to 6. So we can do.
Okay, so 6. Okay, so 6, because I think 6 it's for 2 caregivers and 2 caregiver, right?
Uh-huh.
Ideally, I mean, regulation speaking, we technically only need 1 caregiver. Like up to 15 residents, we only need 1 caregiver, and that's regulations. But just in terms of just from speaking from the spirit of the industry, I mean, I'd recommend during waking hours, trying to have 2 staff during kind of the most waking hours, maybe. Or if you guys are going to hire an administrator, maybe that administrator kind of works Monday through Friday, kind of at the facility, with 1 caregiver, and then there's 2 caregivers in the PMs, 1 overnight caregiver, 2 caregivers in the.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. For the day, it's just only 1. For the night, maybe we need to add it 1. But the 8 or 10 hour nights, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll show you I'll create a very clear staffing plan and model for you, so that you understand exactly how that's going to work.
That's really, you are talking 100% that we're looking for as a starting, yeah.
Okay.
Up to 6, that's good for us.
Sounds good. So with your first home, are you guys looking to purchase a home and convert? Are you guys looking to rent a home and sublet it for your business?
I'm not for the term for leasing, really, but really, after we just talk with each other about where is the area we are looking for, I can start, because that's part of my job. I can work with real estate. I can see what function we are looking for, and also we are looking for, maybe I can find something I can continue mortgage on him. You see, so we have many options, but really I need to start first with which area we need to sell first. After that, I can work on the house as soon as possible. Yeah.
Either renting or
So yeah, renting this would be next option, but first option we need to purchase.
Understood. Okay, that sounds great. Sounds good. So when talking about private pay rates, right? Let's just say, let's say I'm very familiar with Southern California. I'm in San Diego, right? So this is kind of my market as well. So I mean, if we're talking about where strategic locations to start private pay elderly assisted living facilities, so obviously Inland Empire's it's simply going to be a little bit less. I mean, real estate's a little bit less there. Orange County is going to be a little bit more. Northern San Diego is going to be a little bit more. Or I'm located, East San Diego. I'm in like El Cajon, La Mesa. Private pay rates are probably starting out at like $6,500 per individual per month. If we are servicing individuals who have a higher acuity level, folks who maybe are memory care, dementia, Alzheimer's, we're going to get up to like, $7,500 per individual per month. And so, I was looking at like Temecula, for example, which is probably maybe a neighborhood in the Inland Empire. Rates over there were kind of starting out around, 5,500. And for a higher acuity individual, they were creeping up into, 6,500, per individual per month. And so, I have licensed, residential facilities for the elderly. Very familiar with the process, happy to do it over and over and over again. I will say, and just something to keep in mind right now, and I'm here to, go in whatever direction it is at the end of the day that you want to go to. But a lot of the folks that I service and that I help do run assisted living facilities for adults and or children with autism. And I'm not sure, did Brian speak with you about that? Any?
well, no.
Okay. Sounds good. So, I mean, I do just want to spend a second and kind of talk to you about the opportunity that's at hand with servicing a different population, right, versus the elderly. Because with the elderly population, we can do that. Understand that the folks that we're going to be servicing, if we're servicing an elderly population, let me go on Do Not Disturb so my phone stops ringing. If we're servicing an elderly population, any home that we get into, we will have to make it ADA accessible. So we'll have to, modify it, and just grab bars, rails, walk-in showers, and make it so that it passes the fire inspection clearance, which is something that we can do. But when you're keeping your budget in mind as we get into it, understand that it'll cost probably to, I mean, if in a lean manner, if we're to modify it so that it's ADA compliant and accessible, it'll cost, between $20,000 to $35,000 to make all of those in-home modifications. Okay. So with a private pay rate, we'll be getting, just keep in the back of your mind, depending on where we're located, between, $5,500 to $7,000 per individual per month. And I'll build out, a profit and loss statement for you guys to send to you so that, you guys are extremely, extremely clear on how much money it is that you can make. That's no problem. Now, if we were to service adults with autism, for example, intellectual and developmental disabilities, the folks that we're servicing are ambulatory. They can ambulate and assisted. They're not wheelchair ridden. No modifications to the home need to be made. So now it opens up, if we're looking in shopping for real estate and we're looking to hit that 6-bed, threshold, it's much easier, first and foremost, to get into 2-story homes that accommodate, 5 to 6 beds versus trying to find a single-story ranch-style home that is 5 bedrooms. That's for one. Secondly, we have to make 0 modifications to the home because these individuals can ambulate unassisted, meaning they can walk around, they're not wheelchair ridden. My group home, for example, is 2 stories. Thirdly, which is pretty, important is the fact that the rates are much higher. And so, did you see my screen that says residential services?
Yeah.
So right now, if we were to service, let's say, if we were to service only 4 individuals, the rate that we'd be getting would start out at $6,500 and move up all the way into $13,500 per individual per month.
Mm.
And so what I do is I service a higher level, a higher acuity level individual. And so, so this is the base rate from the regional center. In addition, I get $1,420 for their P&I money. So all in all, I make, almost $15,000 fee, right? Getting into real estate that's more accessible, right? Because, there's more 4 to 5 bedroom homes that are 2 stories. I'm not having to make any sort of capital, modifications to the home, right? And so, and the individuals that you serve, you're going to have less turnover, right? With an elderly population, we will be servicing folks who are, if you think about where they sit on their kind of on the spectrum, right? Like they'll probably be with us for, 2 to 3 years at most before they have to transition to nursing care. So every so often we're constantly cycling, we're having to do new business development. If we're servicing folks with autism, we could intake them at age 21, 22 years old, and they could live with us until they're 59 years old. And so all you got to do is get the home filled once, and these individuals could be with you for decades. Now, I'm not here to necessarily influence you or say one's better than the other, because it's a whole different, program type. And if Zainab, if you have a history of working with the geriatric population, maybe it makes more sense. Everybody has a different calling, but I'm just, just given that Brian, hadn't talked to you about it, I just want to show you guys, the realm of the possible with this industry.
Yeah, I have a question. So, did you mean that with the adult facility will not need to modify the home to be disability?
Correct.
How's this come? Because some patients with adults also wheelchair bound or bed bound, and some of them, if they go to the bathroom, they need accessibility inside the bathroom, like a grab bar, like a high-seated toilet, like a it's also need for modification for disabilities.
So that's a great question, right? So let's come over here, for example. So this is an application that I'm processing right now, and if we go to the initial form, the first thing that they ask is, what's going to be our total requested capacity, and what's going to be the number of non-ambulatory individuals that we are willing and able to accept. And so, yes, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities also covers things like cerebral palsy, also covers folks who are wheelchair ridden. And if you are okay with making the modifications to the home, then it opens you up to receiving more referrals. And I think that's a better direction to go in, from a care standpoint and a business standpoint, if you're unwilling to do that. All I'm saying is that with the intellectually and developmentally disabled population, there's plenty of folks who are ambulatory, and you don't have to accept folks who are non-ambulatory and make those modifications. If you choose to make the modifications and accept folks who are non-ambulatory, it'll open your door up to a more wide range of referrals, and I recommend it. But I'm just, if keeping a budget is in mind, especially as a startup, then understand that this is a leaner way to get involved in the industry without having to make modifications.
About the budget, in your opinion, what's like roughly amount for starting for this one?
Yeah, so let's talk about it, right? So if I come over here to Sheets, I'll show you kind of an elderly population, first. So So let's say that, you know,
let's say level 4 or 5.
yeah, so let's say that the monthly rate that we're getting, let's keep it pretty kind of in the middle, right? So let's say that we're servicing folks kind of upper acuity level. Let's say that we're servicing folks at like $6,800 per individual per month. Let's say that we're into a 5-bedroom home, for example, and the master room we're sharing. And so it's 2 individuals living in the main bedroom, and then each of the other 4 rooms they have their own sort of they have their own room. Okay. And so with that said, let us kind of build up what that profit and loss is going to look like month over month. So R17 times, yeah. So let's say the first month, we're able to get our first 3 folks, right? As we receive our license, we're operational. The first month, we do heavy on the marketing. We're able to get our first 3 residents. The next month, we're able to get our next 2 residents. Month over month, at that point, we have 6 residents. Let's say for whatever reason, somebody within the model transitions out of care, they go into a higher level, and so we're trying to replace that individual that month, and then we get back to full capacity. And let's say that cycle continues itself, because with an elderly model, very high level math, we are assuming that it'll be a few months to ramp up to full capacity, and now we will be turning over capacity as folks maybe age out of care, right? And so this is a fair model to assume. Okay. And so month 1, in addition to, what you guys are paying for our consulting services, let's say, it costs you all $10,000 to get the home furnished. And I have the full inventory links of everything that you need in order to get the home furnished, so on and so forth. Let's say it takes this long. So year 1, revenue, what we're looking at is, $448,000. And then, let's say like year 2, for example, we have, we're more blessed with a more, occupied capacity. And so that gets us to, $476,000 of revenue a year. Okay. But let me go back. But looking at year 1 as the startup, okay. So, supplies and inventory, let's say it's $12,000. It could very well be less. I mean, I've opened up even a sober living home, and it was an 8-bedroom, 16-bed sober living home that I got fully furnished for less than $10,000. I got my group home fully furnished for less than $5,000. But I like to be conservative when we're running initial sort of forecasts.
Like a saving, no problem. I just starting to know everything better.
Yep. And so let's do, I think the most important thing to look at, right, is going to be our labor with the population. And so, I'm assuming that if you're serving a very mild tier individual who, doesn't need a whole lot of assistance, then we are going to be staffing 168 staffing hours a week. And so, kind of what this looks like is going to be kind of like one staff 24/7. As we increase into a memory care model, I'm going to, now assume that we're going to have, 2 staff during waking hours. Okay. And this is on top of our administrators, sort of annual salary as well, and the care that they're providing. And honestly, I may be able to kind of like back this number off a little bit, assuming our administrator is going to work 40 hours a week in the home. Understand that by law, you can have one administrator administrate 2 homes simultaneously. And so over time, you're going to get economies of scale. You're going to be able to leverage your administrator across multiple homes. But for you to maximize their salary, maybe you have them in the home 40 hours a week as well. It just depends on who you're hiring. I recommend, hire an administrator and give them, let's say, 20 hours a week of, on-site direct care work, and then let them manage their own schedule outside of that in terms of the administrative work that has to be done, taking them to doctor's appointment, coordinating their medical care, interfacing with families. If you do that, you will retain good talent for a long time because, they feel respected. With that said, the administrator annual salary will differ, depending on what kind of home you run, the level of care that you're providing, so on and so forth. But for somebody starting out running a, elderly residential assisted living facility, I think it's fair to say that, they could start with an hourly rate, right? And you're paying them 40 hours a week, but 25 times 2080 is $52,000, right? Let's say you're paying them about $25 an hour, full time. And as they go and operate two homes, that could probably be bumped up to, let's say, $80,000. If we were doing an adult residential facility for folks with autism, I would probably start this number at $70,000, just because it's a bit more involved and more work. So $50,000. Let's say we are paying our direct support professionals industry average, which is $19 an hour. Okay. So with that said, our monthly
That's for caregiver, right? DSP, that's a caregiver, right?
yes, yep. So $19 an hour times 280 hours a week. So 19 times 280 is going to be that amount times 50.
50 to 150, 512.
Yeah, so our payroll is going to be about $23,000 a month. Okay. So now with that said, let's look at our profit and loss. Okay. So as we go down the line, bookkeeping, HR services, $500 a month. TV services, things like Roku. With an elderly facility, oftentimes we're not going to have an auto expense, right? When we serve, younger adults who are ambulatory, it makes more sense to get them out and about into the community. With an elderly population, maybe you just have a non-owned commercial auto insurance so that your administrator can take them out and about as necessary. But for residential assisted living for the elderly, it's more assumed that their family members are going to pick them up and take them out and about. It's not written into your program design that that's a necessity. Okay. So dues and subscriptions. Adobe, things like QuickBooks, things like your health notes, use a system called SyncWise. Let's say that costs you a couple $100 a month. General and professional liability insurance, a couple $100 a month. Commercial property insurance, let's say, $680 a month, right? And this, commercial property insurance is typically the more expensive insurance we're here in California. And so that's it. I'm not sure what your mortgage or rent would be, right?
It should be the same, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're, let's assume $7,000 a month, PIPI. So when it comes to payroll, so when we're ramping up at the beginning, I would say that we're going to be, we're only going to need really kind of half the staff that we'll need at full capacity, because our administrator is going to be doing some DSP work. We're not going to need 2 folks during waking hours because we're not at full capacity yet. And so, this is a calculation which pretty much sums up the what our monthly payroll is going to look like, depending on what we're paying our DSPs. And then we're adding our administrator's salary amortized over 12 months. Okay. And so the reason why month 2 and month, 7 or 8 are so much more is because understand that twice a year payroll hits 3 times in the month. So I have to multiply the whole equation by 1.5, right?
Yeah.
And so month over month, what your typical payroll will look like is going to be about $23,000 a month, right? Which is going to be your largest expense in the industry. It'll be your payroll, your rent, then your food, and that's it. Payroll taxes and expenses, 7.5% of payroll. Permits and licenses, so renewing our license annually, amortized, it's $100 a month.
Okay.
Maintenance, utilities, workers' comp insurance, food. And so if we zoom out, okay, when servicing, the elderly in this capacity, there's not a whole lot of profit, right? And so this is what I try and show people. And, guide them in another sort of direction. Now,
Now the revenue 476 up, right?
yeah,
It's 476, right? Oh, yeah.
it's four
Okay, 448. Okay, not close.
into it. Now,
Expenses how much?
and expenses are $453,000 within the first year, right? And so understand that, like, a lot of people speak about residential assisted living for the elderly because the silver tsunami is coming in, so on and so forth and so forth. But with California's real estate market, with the cost of labor out here, margins are squeezed extremely thin. Now, there's one major levy that we can pull. There's two major levies that we can pull to make the numbers pencil out. Okay. And so, but at the end of the day, it will be decreasing, our sort of quality of care. Right. And so we can have one staff during waking hours 24/7. I mean, an elderly population is a pretty chill population, right? Like, these folks are going to be, they're not going to be ambulating a whole lot. And so you have one staff during waking hours, and it's expected for your administrator to be there, during kind of the main hours, right? And your admin, so having two staff during all waking hours absorbs a ton of your margin. And so if we cut back and we say, look, we're just going to service this thing, one staff during waking hours, our administrator is going to be working during peak hours during the week, then this makes the model much more viable. Okay. And so I like to give you guys
really I'm confused. So the revenue 448,000 and the expenses before we do the last point, it's 453.
Correct. So for example,
budget,
if we're staffing two staff during all waking hours and one overnight staff, which in spirit, makes sense, right? You're not kind of overworking your staff. It makes it very hard to pull a profit.
That's why I'm asking for that. Mean I will pay for that.
Exactly, right? It's
yeah.
So that's the difference between elderly and the adult facility you want to show us. So the adult is much better than elderly.
Absolutely. 100%. Now, keep in mind, though, this model can still pencil out, right? Year one, we can still pull a six-figure, we can still pull six-figure margins, but we do have to slightly cut back on the quality of care that we're providing. In terms of the staffing hours, by law, we can still staff one person per 6 individuals, and we can have our administrator work during peak hours, okay? And then maybe on the weekends, in kind of peak hours, we can have kind of a floater that'll increase it a little bit. We can do these things, right? We can also pay our direct support professionals a little bit less, right? Rather than $19, we pay them $18 an hour. And this increases our margins another $10,000, a year, to our profit. And so there's levies that we can pull in order to make an elderly model possible and viable, right? But I'm just showing you the reality of the industry and what we have to sacrifice in order to make these numbers turn. And this is even assuming, this is assuming, like, kind of middle upper rates here in Southern California. And so we'd have to target markets where we'd be able to demand these kind of rates month over month, right? And so this is an elderly model. Okay. And so I'll go ahead and I'll share it to you guys right now. So that's that. Now, let us talk about the rates for the developmentally disabled population. Okay. So I think that within this model, there is a a couple things, right? So there's let's go back. So there's levels, okay? All the folks that we serve when servicing the developmentally disabled, it'll be operating off of a supports intensity scale, meaning that the individuals that we serve increase on a acuity level both medically and or behaviorally. And so when you're servicing level 2 folks, these folks are almost entirely independent. They probably have some sort of supported employment. They're able to transport themselves. They're able to be in the community on their own, live independently. They have no behaviors. They are completely self-sufficient with hygiene. And then as you go down the levels, you're increasing the amount of potential behaviors that they have, the potential of maybe medical disabilities that they have. So now servicing folks with maybe cerebral palsy at a sort of level 4, level 5 level, who can't ambulate unassisted, who can't be left in the community unassisted. And then most of the folks that I'm helping, and myself included, we run level 6 homes. And so these homes are more so behaviorally inclined. We were servicing folks who, now maintain behaviors, socially, quote unquote, unacceptable behaviors. And our goal with this model is to contract with a behavioral consultant. And, it's part of their individual service plan so that we are helping instill less behaviors on a daily basis. So that they can be more socially integrated and live independently one day. So the behaviors that we are going to experience with this model, if I come over here, I can kind of show you, and you can service folks on any sort of level within this model, right? The base model is still more financially profitable than serving a high acuity elderly individual. So let's do, service level breakdown. So I'll email this to you guys, right? But level 1, daily living skills, self-sufficient, fully ambulatory, no challenging behaviors. Level 2, minimal training needs. They can easily avoid hazardous situations. They can, be either ambulatory or non-ambulatory. However, they're able to transfer independently. They don't really have any sort of, challenging behaviors. They might, require some, verbal redirection. Stable health. Level 3, ambulatory or non-ambulatory. Some sort of challenging behaviors. Sometimes, wandering away, because now we should be servicing folks who need line of sight, staffing, communication, but they're still independent enough to where they might try and, go out and about on their own. So we're dealing with now behaviors such as, elopement less than 1 time per month, aggression and outbursts not ever requiring medical treatment, emotional outbursts requiring verbal redirection, sometimes self-injurious behavior requiring no more than first aid, minor property destruction. So increasing the level of behaviors, stable medical. And then as we get into level 4s and 5s, it increases. But what also increases is the amount of staffing that we're able to put inside of the facility to, help out the folks that we're serving. So I'll send you this model. You guys can, read through it and understand what each level means, right? But understand that a lot of folks that I work with, we choose to serve a higher level, population. And so what that allows us to do is have way more staffing hours, pay our administrator way more, pay our direct support professionals way more, and still come out with way more of a profit month over month. Okay. And we're still able to flex these numbers as we see fit. But let's say, for example, you just want to service 4 individuals, right? So let's just say we're going to service 4 folks in a home, right? And not overwhelm ourselves. We can get into a 3-bedroom home or a 4-bedroom home. I mean, that opens up our access to real estate infinitely more than trying to find a 5-bedroom home. And in addition to that, we don't have to target areas that the real estate is so expensive so that we can compensate for charging higher rates. It doesn't matter if you're operating in Moreno Valley or Newport Beach, you're going to be getting the same set rate by the state month over month. So it allows you to get into cheaper real estate and still make the same amount of money.
Okay.
So let's say this is new. File, make a copy, and let's say Zena IDD in California.
That's for adults, right? That's for adults.
Yeah.
This is for adults.
And this fee required also be a single story home, or
it could be either or, right? So with this population, we do not have to service individuals who are ambulatory or non-ambulatory, right? So if we come back over here to, school, for example, the model that I'm going to show you right now, mobility, ambulatory or non-ambulatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So come back over here. Let's say that, we're paying staff $19 an hour. Let's say that we're paying our administrator only $70,000 a year. And we service number of residents 4. The monthly rate, if you service 4 or less individuals, so residential facility serving adults, staff operated 4 or less beds, it's $13,533.59. Okay. So 13,533. Just do that. 13,533. Anybody can get into a 3 or 4 bedroom home. There's infinitely more options available on the market to do that. Okay.
That's a model. I think you do a video with them with someone if you're a student, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Because we talk about that he only have a house for 3 bedroom. We start with 3 bedroom, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So coming over here. So now we're servicing 4 individuals. We have no turnover because these folks aren't aging into a nursing home, right? We're oftentimes accepting them at a younger age and they will be with us for a long time. There's usually never much turnover in these homes, right? When we accept an individual, if they're a good fit and we're a good fit for them, they can live with us for a very, very long time. So it's a ramp up period. Month 1, we'll get 2 individuals. We'll get a 3rd individual. Then we'll get 4, and we'll stay at 4. Kind of moving forward. And we have way more staffing hours available, right? That we can do. So it just makes the quality of care increase. We're able to pay our administrator more. We're able to pay our DSPs more. So that enables us to retain our talent for much longer. And so now with this model, let's talk about the profit and loss at hand, right? So
now for the 4, I will have 1 administrator. He can hands-on the weekday, also the waking time, and 2 DSPs.
Yeah, so that's how this is structured. So if we're talking about our payroll right now, right? So how this is ran, right, is that our payroll, so how this is formulated. So I multiply the entire equation. So here's what our staffing hours is, right? So it's going to be what the formula looks like is it is the weekly staffing hours divided by 7 times 30. So we get the daily staffing hours and then the monthly staffing hours times the rate of pay. So that gives us our monthly payroll.
Plus $30, right?
So let's say we're paying our DSPs $19 an hour.
Okay.
And so what the formula is also doing is it's including our administrator's annual salary amortized monthly. Okay. I multiply that whole equation by 0.85 because it assumes that our administrator will be working and, we'll be able to include them into our staffing formula, about 10% of the time. In addition, there's going to be days where all of our residents are in day programs. So we're not going to need that staffing support during the week. Right. And so that assumption is already built into this formula. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And so with that said, our payroll is going to fluctuate, it's going to sit around $26,000 a month, twice a year. I have to multiply the entire formula by 1.5 because payroll hits 3 times in a month.
It's all in the motion.
And so everything else included, I mean, I could back off our
All of them bi-weekly, right? The payroll, it's bi-weekly, right?
payroll's going to be biweekly. Yes.
Yeah. So we will receive from the government monthly, right?
Monthly. We provide services for the month of August. I'm going to invoice the state on September 1st. I'm going to get
First.
12th business day of the month, every single month, like clockwork.
Okay.
So if we go, so back here, so, $500 for bookkeeping, our rent or our mortgage is going to be less because we're able to get into think about it, any home that we need to get an additional construction loan on to make these modifications, and a single level ranch style home is going to be more money. And so I could even argue maybe that this, that this could be lower, but let's just say that it's $6,100, given that we're in some, cheaper real estate now. Okay. So our payroll taxes and expenses the same, food, the same, utilities. I could probably increase this. I think $200 is pushing it on the cheap end. So with all that said, now we're serving less folks. We're serving 4 folks. We're staffing way more. We're paying more. We're retaining more staff, and we're retaining better staff, and we're making a lot more money. Okay. So now we're making, $13,000 a month over month. Okay.
So in adult, level 6 can be ambulatory folks.
So we can still service non-ambulatory folks, but what I'm assuming right now is that we're going to serve, ambulatory individuals who can ambulate unassisted.
It can be also level 6, or it should be level above, like 4 of.
It can also be level 6. So level 6 can also be non-ambulatory. So the state used to call level 6s level 4Is. Now they're called level 6s. And so ambulatory or non-ambulatory. Now, we're servicing folks who have more challenging behaviors. But keep in mind that they now we're able to, hire more staff and better trained staff in order to, mitigate that. So guys, let's do this. This is conversation number 1, right? Let's continue everything. There's much more that I want to talk about and show you guys, but I'm kind of, we've got multiple people onboarding today, and so I'm back to back right now. All right. So we meet twice a week. Everybody has different schedules, right? And so I structure it on Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. and on Thursdays at 5 p.m. So no matter your schedule, one of those times should be able to work. Should be able to work for you guys.
Okay.
What I want you to do is just digest what I'm talking about right now. And what I'm willing to do is even set up one more one-on-one for us to continue kind of going down this path and into this model. So that, we can figure out a direction that makes the most sense for you guys in terms of which population to serve, so on and so forth. But what I want you to do is, do you have access to school? Are you guys in here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're already updated.
So go through module 1 and look what I have to say about DD group homes, about elderly profit and losses. Look what I have to say about the implementation costs of doing a DD group home versus an elderly assisted living, right? And so really keep in mind which direction. Just think about as you're going through this.
Yeah, for sure. After this conversation, we need to dig really about the all information we received today, because I see the number is different from what I heard first. So I need to really to choose first what we need to go for with the direction was.
But I have a question also. So I usually notice that the adults with psychologist or emotional change and cognitive change and disability need more attention than the elderly patients, right? So need more money for caregiver to watch them, to take care of them. So
keep in mind, right, with an elderly assisted living model, I'm assuming this many staffing hours per week. with the adults with developmental disabilities, I'm assuming this many staffing hours per week. So, I mean, we're multiplying that formula, pretty much double, like whatever model would be, there's going to be double the staff in there. To your point, they do need the attention. They do need a higher level of care oftentimes. And so this is a very hefty formula that the state set that I put in here, whereas depending on the amount of individuals that you serve and depending on the acuity level of individuals that you serve, it'll be a different amount. So if we're servicing 6 individuals that are 4I, our staffing hours are going to increase. If we're serving 6 individuals that are only level 2, our staffing hours are going to be as such. And so this model builds in the fact exactly what you're saying, that these individuals need higher levels of support, but we are paid a sustainable amount so that we can afford it. And we can increase our staffing and we're able to pay our caregivers more and our admin more to attract somebody who's more qualified to take care of these individuals. This is just conversation one. I mean, it's just like we will, again, working with me, our time best spent together is really aligning on which path makes the most sense. Doing the market research, I'm still going to conduct the market research report for the elderly. I'm not saying that that's not the route to go in, right? If we find an area where we can service regular individuals for $7,000 a month where the real estate's cheaper, then it may make sense. And so I'm not saying no, but I'm just trying to show you what possibilities are out here and what we can help you.
Yeah, we need your experience and we need your recommendation about this, sure. So, yeah. So what did you think about the area need to looking for if we are thinking about the adults? Which area is good for us to looking for?
So for adults, it's going to depend on the regional center and what they have a need for. So I think in your instance, it'll be for the Inland Regional Center, what they only have a need for right now. So when we look at the Inland Regional Center, it depends. Which is where you guys are located. They only have a need for children's residential facilities, where the rates are honestly even higher. And it's a very similar model, and licensing process to this, but there's like 5 different regional centers in LA County alone. And then there's the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Centers, there's the Orange County Regional Center. And so because you guys are on the border, I mean, and you're planning on hiring an admin anyways, you guys have the flexibility. It's really a matter of which regional center has, all the rates are roughly the same from regional center to regional center. And so it's like, which regional center has the demand for more group homes?
Yeah, that's what I asked for. Yeah, I don't have a specific for Inland Empire.
Okay.
No problem about that. What did they need?
And so that's what I'll help.
Area is good, yeah.
That's what I'll help you figure out. I can tell you, offhand, because I'm working with them right now. Obviously, San Diego, Orange County, North LA Regional Center. I need to now look at East LA, South LA, West LA, and Central LA, and figure out their demand right now for which level home, because maybe you guys don't want to do a level 6, and the numbers are still going to work with a level 5 or a level 4, right? And so, and this is only servicing 4 individuals, right? Like, I mean, at 6 individuals, that rate's going to be even higher. And so if I go back over here, Chris and Mercy are doing 6 individuals out here. And let's put in those same numbers. So 70, say 75,000. Now we're making a whole lot of money. Like that's almost $30,000 a month. So net profit's $200,000 a year, right? Just because we changed populations. So I got to drop. But you guys, please show up tomorrow, because I think the conversation that we're having right now is going to be so good for everybody else that's in here. And you guys can meet other folks in California who are on this path, who are doing this. And so I think it'll be really good.